everyone. Welcome in. My name is Ashley Stevenson, and I am the school counselor here at Greenland Middle School. Tonight, the topic of the night is going to be mental health and how it affects our youth. So let's get started. All right, so on the agenda for tonight, we are going to, of course, define what mental health is. I'm going to show you some mental health statistics, and we're going to talk about the most common mental health diagnosis in adolescents and our children. I'm going to talk about how these mental health diagnoses can affect our students, what warning signs to look out for, how you can talk to your child about mental health, and then I'm going to provide you with some extracurricular, like extra outside resources. I'm sorry, y'all. It's been a long day, but I am so glad you're here tonight. I'm so glad that we are going to be talking about this. And then to end the night, I'm also going to give you some information on how to access crisis support within the community. All right, so mental health is a topic that is becoming increasingly more important and increasingly more popular, not just in our adult population in the country, but in our youth and our adolescents. So it is very important to understand what mental health is. So, mental health is the foundations for all of our emotions, how we think, how we communicate with others, how we learn, how resilient we are. Can we bounce back from a tough situation or a crisis situation? It's the foundation for our hope, our self esteem. It is crucial to all of our relationships, personal well being, emotional well being, and it affects how we contribute to society. It is a key part of just our overall well being as humans. So let's take a look at some statistics. So, 1 in 6 children between the ages of 6 and 17 in the US experience a mental health disorder every single year. I know 1 in 6 doesn't sound like a lot, but if you look around the room right now, there are a lot of children in here. And if we were to group them into groups of 6, that number would add up pretty quickly. So that is a staggering number for just the ages between 6 and 17. And then 50% of all lifetime mental illnesses will actually begin by the age of 14. So by the time we have barely gotten into high school, freshmen in high school, 50% of lifetime mental illness will have started by that time. So again, this is why mental health is such an important topic, is because it can start so early and then affect the rest of our adulthood. So let's talk about these 3 common diagnoses. We've got ADHD, depression, and anxiety. And those are not 3 diagnoses that anyone here is unfamiliar with. But what you're probably going to be shocked by are the statistics that come along with these diagnoses. So in ADHD, 11% of children between the ages of 4 and 17 in the US were labeled as ADHD between the years of 2011 and 2012. 11%, over 10% of our children between those ages were labeled as ADHD. In ADHD, boys are 2 to 3 times more likely than girls to be diagnosed with ADHD. I'm sure that's not a shock to anyone who has a boy in here, but ADHD does present very differently in boys and girls. Boys have the typical hyperactivity, impulsivity presentation of ADHD, whereas girls do not present ADHD in that way most of the time. So this is probably why boys are more likely to be diagnosed than girls. Moving on to depression, 42% of teens experience persistent feelings of sadness or hopelessness. Not, oh, I came home, it's been a hard day, I'm really upset. No, persistent, weeks, months of hopelessness and sadness. 42% of teens, nearly half of the teens in the country will experience the depression. Staggering amount. 20% of teens will experience depression by the age of 17. So before they even graduate high school, they will have 20% of teens will have experienced depression. Again, staggering amount. And unlike ADHD, where boys were more likely than girls to be diagnosed, girls are twice as likely to be diagnosed as clinically depressed than boys are. So, again, when it comes to mental health, we don't need to just be looking out for boys instead of girls or girls instead of boys. We need to be looking out for all of our boys and girls, and making sure that we're taking care of them and their mental health. And then lastly, we've got anxiety. 32% of teens are estimated to have an anxiety disorder. 32%, a third nearly of the teens in the country are estimated to have an anxiety disorder of some kind. Just staggering. And then, like depression, anxiety disorders are more common in girls. Girls make about 38% of anxiety diagnosis, and boys make up about 26%. So again, there's about a 12% swing there in between boys and girls, but the numbers for both are still definitely something to pay attention to. All right, so let's talk about how these diagnoses can affect your child. Start with anxiety. Anxiety can impair all of our executive functioning. Our executive functioning is where that's our learning, that's our thinking, that's our communicating, that's our foundation of who we are and how we do things throughout the day. So it impairs those executive functioning skills. Even those who are not clinically, like, significantly anxious or have those clinical levels of anxiety, just a little bit of anxiety, if we want to say it that way, can compromise a student's learning. Depression has been linked to lower GPAs and an increased likelihood of the student dropping out. So we definitely want to make sure that if we suspect that a child or our child's friends are either anxious or depressed, we want to make sure that we talk to them about that so that we can make sure that they do not become these statistics, especially with dropping out. Anxiety and depression can cause students to withdraw from their friends, withdraw from social situations. When they start withdrawing from social situations and from their friends, that starts to affect their self-esteem and how they view themselves. So you can see where it can start to kind of be a domino effect into a deeper level of depression or that heightened anxiety. And then students with ADHD, they often have a hard time focusing. They have a hard time staying organized. They can be disruptive in class. And because they can't focus and they can't stay organized, they have lower grades. And then as a result of the lower grades, a lot of times their self-esteem will take a hit there as well. So then we've got low self-esteem, which low self-esteem can trigger depression, anxiety. So you can see how these three can be tied together, and how they can affect our youth. Now, how can we spot the signs? How can we spot the signs in our children to see if they've got ADHD, depression, anxiety? ADHD, we've got inattention and we've got that hyperactivity and that impulsivity. With the inattention, they have difficulty paying attention to details, difficulty listening, difficulty finishing a task. They might get started, but then halfway through, they just kind of lost focus. They lose things. They can't find their backpack. They can't find their homework. They can't find their binders. They can't find their pencil or their pens, right? Um, so things like that are something we need to look out for if it's happening consistently. The hyperactivity and impulsivity, they're always fidgeting, constantly on the go. They're having a hard time sitting down, talking excessively, just like they've just got, like, all their thoughts have to come out at once. Struggling to wait or be patient, right? They want to talk about it now. They want to do it now. They don't want to wait. And then interrupting or intruding others. Maybe you're having a conversation and they hear it and they're like, oh, that makes me think of me, right? So, um, looking out for those depression, feelings of sadness, hopelessness, losing interest in our favorite activities, feelings of worthlessness or guilt, exaggerated self blame, frequent thoughts of death, dying, suicide, loss of energy, loss of appetite, social isolation, poor school performance, self harm. Definitely look out for all of those things. And if you see any of those things, make sure you talk to your child about that. And then we've got anxiety, frequently worrying, feeling irritable or nervous or restless, feeling wound up, on edge, easily fatigued, difficulty concentrating, or their mind just going blank, sleep problems, muscle tension, headaches, stomach aches. All of those things are things to look out for if they're happening persistently, um, over weeks at a time. And now the hard part. How do you talk to your kid about it? How do you talk to your kid about if they're struggling with their mental health? Well, the first thing is I don't want you to worry about triggering any issues within your child. Okay. Having communication has been shown to have more positive outcomes than it has to have shown to have negative outcomes. So I don't want you to worry about triggering them. Now, they might be mad at you for wanting to talk about it, but I promise they will thank you for it later. Most important thing is to listen. Listen, listen to everything that they have to say or that they don't want to say. Um, Reserve judgment. Remember, if you were struggling, you would not want to feel like you were being judged for feeling the way you feel. So make sure you reserve judgment. Avoid comparisons. Be mindful of your reactions, right? Be mindful of your reactions and then also your child's reactions as you're talking to them. And then just be straightforward. You've got to be honest and be open. Um, and that will get you a very long way in talking about mental health. All right, so here are some resources for you. We've got Mental Health in America, the Kids Mental Health Foundation, and the Check In Project. And all three of these are great resources. They have tons of tips on what to look out for, how to talk to your child. Um, they give you resources within your community. Some of them do professional development, like webinars that you can watch. So these three um, these three websites are great resources. And the handout that you grabbed when you were coming in, those are on there as well, so that you can take that home with you. And then most importantly is, how do you access crisis support? So first, try reaching out to the school counselor. You can reach out to myself, or if you have a child at another school, you can reach out to their school counselor as well. Reach out to your child's pediatrician. A lot of times they have a lot of great resources for you and a lot of helpful information. And then if you feel like the situation with your child needs immediate attention, please call 99 or 988. That is the suicide mental health crisis line. And they can get you someone to talk to. You can just tell them that you feel like your child's struggling, and they can get you in touch with some resources in your community. So, but I hope that this has been informative. I will be hanging out for a while until it kind of clears out. So if you have any other questions, please feel free to come find me. I hope you'll have a great night.